Oh, what is up, guys? So, I'm still getting used to this podcast room. I just did 50 push ups because honestly, I'm super nervous. um, the idea of having a podcast has been a thing for a long time. Um, sheesh, I am out of breath. I just did my push ups, trying to get out of my head into my body a little bit. Oh, gonna take a second to get my breath back. But the idea of starting a podcast has been a thing for quite a while now. In the last place that I lived, we actually built out a full podcast studio, but it basically um, it took a long time to get everything figured out, get everything ordered, the whole place painted and stuff. So it was a process, and then we didn't really have any systems in place to get the whole podcast up and going. So now that I'm down in Arizona, around the right people in the right place, um, one of the first things that I wanted to do was start a podcast. And I'm not an experienced podcaster. Me. I'm just a dumb bodybuilder. Um, but for me, I figured this was the next step. Whew, sheesh, I'm still breathing deep. But yeah, this was just one of the next steps in my journey when it comes to content creation, entrepreneurship, and obviously hitting all my goals. Hitting all my goals with my businesses. Um, so this podcast is going to be probably different than any other podcast that you've ever listened to because the main focus with this podcast is going to be mindset, right? Um, I coach tons and tons and tons of people through their fitness transformations. I've done it over and over and over and over. And there's one common denominator that, still breathing deep. But there's one common denominator that I've noticed with every single person, both who has made it through my program and succeeded on the other side, and the people who have went through the program, it hasn't really made a change and they go right back to what they were doing before. Um, and that's the mindset, guys. Like that's the reality of it. Um, so that was my sole focus with this is I believe that no matter what, right, being a coach, the interesting thing about being a coach is influence. So when it comes to influence, um, one thing that you have to realize whenever you are working with people is everybody is the sum of the five people they spend the most time with, right? So, with that being said, even if you show up 100% and you try your best for a certain person at a certain time, at most you are 20% influence over their life, right? They still have four other people or whatever the scenario may be. They still have four other people who have a influence in their life. And this is why most people don't change, guys. Like you can go sign up with the trainer or a coach or like whoever it is. And the reality of it is since your ties with the other people in your life run so deeply, that person is like you have to realize that's only 20% influence in your life. So the reality is unless you're willing to like change your circle and the people around you, you're not going to fully change. And that's a tough reality as a coach because you have to realize like that's all you can do. So the whole premise of the podcast here is how do I become a stronger one fifth of every single person's, or how do I become a stronger one fifth um, when I'm influencing people, right? And I think the best way that I could possibly do that is still breathing a lot. It's crazy talking and stuff after doing push-ups, but Um, the way that you do that is by being in their face all the time, right? Creating tons and tons and tons and tons of content and doing your best to train their subconscious, right? Because that's truly the only way you reach people nowadays, right? Is they need to see you on social media over and over and over. You need to be as loud as you possibly can. Otherwise, your voice gets drowned out by all the other noise. And the reality of life is like the majority of noise is negative. So negativity just spreads like wildfire. So the reality is, if you know that you have a good message and you have good intentions for your people, your clients, whoever, then you need to be as loud as you possibly can. And for me, this was a huge realization that I had, because it's so easy to hide, guys. Like, it's so easy to hide. I mean, I've been called all the stuff on social media. I've been called arrogant, a liar, fraud, everything, right? People love to throw out stuff and just see if it sticks. But the thing that I've noticed, or the thing that I've had to sit back and sit with for a little while, is like, am I that? Like, are they right? Am I a fraud? Am I what these people are saying I am? Right? And the conclusion that I've come to is the arrogance or ego is not, ego doesn't get you where I am. And I'm not saying like I have everything figured out and my life's awesome and stuff, but if I had held on to my ego, I would have never progressed to the point of where I am now. Like, there's always somebody that I have to drop my ego for and believe over my own like self in order to get to the next level. And that's what's continued to level me up. And that's what coaches are, guys. And I'm not even pitching coach. Like, that's the crazy part, is this just came full circle. I'm a coach and I'm not even pitching coaching, but like, I just simply was like, okay, I'm at this level. How do I get to the next? Right. And there's two ways to look at that. Like, you can find the next person and be like, oh, they're a douchebag. They don't know what they're talking about. Or you can be like, okay, he was where I was, and now he's where I want to be. So I can pay him, or I can drop my ego and I can listen to this guy's advice, And I mean, there have definitely been situations that I've held on to my ego, but my, like, I always try my best to sit back and look at that and be like, well, why? Like, why do I feel repelled by this guy? Why do I feel insulted or intimidated or whatever the thing is? And the majority of the time, if I sit back and I really think about it, it's simply just my ego being fragile. Um, but anyways, to go back to the main point, right? There's two ways that you can look at the people at the next level. It's either you throw stuff at them and throw stuff at them and like be super negative, comment on their stuff, and like troll them basically, or you can just listen blindly. And so the thing is if you want to continue progressing in life, dropping your ego is a massive, massive, massive asset that most people, the type A personalities, see dropping ego as weakness. But the reality is, if you truly embrace it and you learn to trust yourself along the process, and you just, trust other people as well, the crazy part is, over time, you'll start to see that the people who have held on to their ego are going nowhere, where you're lapping them. Guys, so my point being with this is, like, me being on camera is super vulnerable. Me putting myself out there on social media, super vulnerable. I hate it. I don't like it. It's not comfortable. Um, but it's not about me, guys. Like, I'm done protecting myself. I'm done being afraid of what people are going to say. And I'm done tiptoeing around everybody else, because that's not, like, offending people is not my, or not offending people is not my responsibility. Like, if I say something that has been true in my life and all I want to do is get it across with good intention that you guys could possibly use that in some scenario in your life, and somebody gets offended, welcome to the internet, bro. Like, I don't know what to say there, but 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 yeah, so the thing that you have to realize is that it's not ego to be on the internet. It's not ego to be up in front of people. A lot of the time, it's more than anything, it's humility, because you are called to give your message to people and be vulnerable with people and like allow people to see your day-to-day life, and that in itself is scary. Like, people get to judge you, people get to hate on you, people get to throw stuff or throw their negative crap at the wall and see if it sticks. And a lot of the time, for someone like me, that I'm an empath, guys, so like if I post something and somebody that I don't know says that I'm an egotistical douchebag, a lot of the time that puts me through a loop for a few days, like that's the crazy part about it. Um but yeah, the reality is that you just have to realize that, like, in order to make it to the next level, it's not ego. It's dropping your ego and becoming who you need to be. Even if you're going to look stupid, even if you're going to have haters, even if you fail or whatever the thing is, like, you just have to simply drop your ego and trust the process. As repetitive as that is, like, everybody says it, trust the process, right? But I promise, the more that you're able to do those things and trust the process and move forward, the faster your process will be. Um, but anyways, guys, that was that was the thought of the day right there. So I'm gonna be the best that I possibly can I'm not even gonna say I'm gonna be the best that I can be. I'm going to be consistent with this podcast 2 times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We will be recording podcasts. They should be out the next day within 24 hours. I don't know what the turnaround time looks like, but that's going to be my goal. I'm going to show up every single week, 1 for myself, but 2 for you guys. For anybody that is a part of Sovereign, anybody that's a part of my social media, follows me, etc., I am going to be here no matter what. And that's the promise that I am making here. So, the whole premise of this podcast, I've thought about this this has been a concept for years now, and it's crazy that it's finally starting to come to fruition, and I have all the stuff up and ready to go. But the whole premise of this podcast is, it is called the Sovereign Life Podcast, right? And the thing with Sovereign, right, and I'll kind of go back into this for you guys. But sovereign in the beginning was a word that stuck out to me because it meant like supreme, right? Like a ruler, somebody in a position of power, right? That was basically what I got from it. And for me, my entire life, up until, probably 21, 22, from 0 to 22, I was a victim. Like, I literally just kind of had that mindset of like, oh, everyone hates me and I'm just unlucky and nothing works out, and all this, the BS that we tell ourselves when we're in that victim mindset. Anyways, when the time came that I was kind of reforming my entire life, I had lost everything, and at that moment, I was looking for names for a clothing company that I wanted to start. And I just started like Googling stuff and like trying to like kind of just spitballing ideas. And Sovereign was what came across my mind. So I looked up the definition and everything, and that's what it means, right? Somebody in a position of power, right? You can flip that and make it sound like ego or whatever you want to do, but the reality is it's just giving yourself control. And that's the whole premise of this podcast when it comes down to it. Is I just want to give you guys the tools required in order to give yourself control of your life. And, stop being a victim, overcome the excuses, the negative self-talk, the disbelief, doubt, fear, all of the things above, because I've done it. Like I've been the victim. I've been like all of the bad stuff. Like I have been broke. I've been divorced. Like been through all this stuff. So I'm just saying, like, through that all, and going from being broke, living on my aunt's basement, recently divorced, to like being one of the top pro natural bodybuilders in the world, and like all the stuff I've done, launching Shroom Brew, Sovereign Lifestyle, bringing on new trainers, and you guys will see my life as we continue to move forward. And I'm not like saying I'm there by any means, but my point being that this is the mindset that has taken me from working two full-time jobs, living on my aunt's couch, and donating plasma to get my first like $1,000 in the bank so I wasn't so in debt, to the point that I'm at now where I have people working under me, I have systems in place, I travel and do what I want with who I want when I want. And I'm not I always give this disclaimer. I am not there. I haven't found it. Like I'm not by any means the richest, buffest, whatever you want to say. But I am a whole lot farther ahead than where I was back then. So this is the mindset that got me there. And every single podcast, it's going to be like 10, 20 minutes max. And we're just going to dissect the mindset that goes on behind the scenes, because I feel like that in itself is going to be huge to be able to kind of download that into your brain. Maybe I can influence you a little bit more into having that same mindset where you are able to have access to it. You're able to consistently listen to this stuff and actually allow it to make a difference in your life. Because that's honestly what I do. Like I find the next dude that I look up to, whether they're in fitness, marketing, or whatever business, I always just find the person that's a few steps ahead of me, and I go all in. I listen to their podcasts, like their posts, buy their books, buy their courses, whatever the thing is, whatever their product is they're selling. I always try to invest in that as much as I can financially, but like also if finances are an issue, then time. You can always invest time, even if finances aren't available. And that's one big thing that everybody needs to understand, because you can either sit there and scroll TikTok for 30 minutes, 40, 45 minutes, an hour a day, or you can find the person you want to be like and you can listen to their podcast or consume their content or whatever, and essentially just download their mindset into your brain so that that same mindset will begin working for you. So that's the whole premise of this podcast, is I just want to walk you guys through my mindset, because that was essentially what took me from hating my life to where I am now. And I just want to be able to give you guys everything. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure to follow me, like, subscribe, all the stuff. If you found this super meaningful. And yeah, guys. Man, I am not very good at the endings here, but yeah, guys, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and all of that type of stuff, and we will see you at the next one.